Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So, I was looking at something, and it felt like I kind of wanted to talk about this because, the Philadelphia 76ers have Joel Embiid, they have Paul George now, Tyrese Maxey, they re-signed him. However, I have a take. I don't know if it's a hot take or not. But I don't think Paul George really, I don't want to say he doesn't move the needle for the 76ers, but I don't think that the 76ers will win a championship with the team that is currently constructed around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey and now Paul George. The reason I say that is because, they've got two guys on their roster taking up about, almost $100 million in cap space between Joel Embiid and Paul George. Maxey, who is the, third best player on this team, is making $35 million a year. Everybody else on this roster, is making less than $10 million a year. If we look at their salaries of guys with guaranteed contracts on the books for this team, there's 11 players. They have Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre Jr., KJ Martin, Andre Drummond, Jared McCain, Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, and Ricky Council IV. That is their team. Eric Gordon is old. Kyle Lowry is old. Andre Drummond is, I'm going to say it, unplayable in the playoffs. KJ Martin is still developing. Ricky Council is still developing. Yeah, they might play Adam Bona a little bit. He's a guy that they drafted. He's a rookie. He looked really good in Summer League. They do have Reggie Jackson, who's on their team now. He's been okay. I think he's like the 12th man that they signed. But the thing is, I look at this team and I'm like, I don't see championship level depth on this team. If I look at this team, what's their starting five gonna be? Is it gonna be Maxey, Embiid, Paul George, Caleb Martin, and Kelly Oubre Jr., or KJ Martin and Caleb Martin? I just, even their starting five, it's like, okay, I don't see much on this team that really, gets me excited, I guess you could say. Kyle Lowry is alright, but, Kyle Lowry's a guy, last season, he shot 43% from the field, 39% from three, which is good. He played, 60 games this past season. But the thing is, Kyle Lowry is 37 years old. He's going to be 38. How long can... Because, this team is, Kyle Lowry's now 38 years old. He's 38 years old and 161 days old. 38 years, 161 days old. Eric Gordon's another guy. I look at, he shoots 37% from three. Eric Gordon is 35. Not the end of the world, but Eric Gordon is a guy that, he played 68 games last year, which is, for Phoenix, which is good. Started for 24 of them, averaged 11 points a game. But it's just, I feel like if Philadelphia has to play a team with depth, they're going to lose. I don't think they're going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. If they have to play a New York or a Boston or even an Indiana or, I don't want to say Orlando, but if they have to play Miami or Milwaukee, Philadelphia is a team that I just think simply doesn't have enough. And I feel like this is a team that, I think they paid Paul George too much. I'm just going to say that up front. I understand that it was miraculous enough that Daryl Morey was able to pull off, Paul George and bring him to the 76ers while putting something around this team that is at least, I don't know, serviceable. But the thing is, I understand the salary cap goes up, and then over the next couple years, and obviously they have the new CBA. But the problem is, like, this is now a team that you have a great starting five. You know, you have a big three. But you're paying a lot of money for that big three, and you're really, really hoping that, like, Ricky Council becomes really good, and that KJ Martin becomes really good, and, like, maybe Adam Bona becomes really good. Like, Adam Bona's a guy that I think is going to be a great NBA player. But I understand, like, they're relying on vets. They're relying on guys, for the most part, who I think their best days are behind them in, like, Andre Drummond and Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon. Caleb Martin's a good player, but, you know, when you play against the Knicks, when you play against the Boston Celtics, when you play against even the Pacers, you know, you have to have a little bit more depth than what you currently have. You know, when you play against the Bucks, Miami Heat even. Miami's a team that I know people think Miami is overrated, and that may be true. But at the end of the day, they still have, you know, Jimmy Butler. They still have Tyler Hero. They still have Bam Adebayo. They still have a decent bench unit. You know, and that's what I think their biggest downfall is going to be if they remain healthy. Like, that's another thing as well. You know, you have Joel Embiid on a massive contract. You have Paul George now on a massive contract as well. Your two guys that you pay almost $50 million a year for each one. I mean, for Joel Embiid, you're already paying $50 million a year, but you're paying almost $100 million for two guys that health is a serious question. You know what I'm saying? Like, it sucks to say that, but health is a serious question about this team. So, you know, not only is bench depth an issue, but you're paying a lot of money to two guys that, if just one injury could really, you know, sidetrack this team. You know, we saw it last year. Joel Embiid came back when he was injured and managed to get this team into the playoffs. I think when they play together, they'll be a good team, like a really good team. It's just when they get into the playoffs, I have a lot of questions about it. You know, this is a team that I just feel they don't have enough depth, and if somebody gets injured, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the biggest thing. It's like they have to remain, not only do they have to remain healthy, they have to hope that their bench unit becomes really, really good. I do have a feeling like once we get closer to the trade deadline, the 76ers will be one of the teams in the trade market, maybe looking to get younger, maybe hoping that some of these vets that they signed in Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry and Andre Drummond, maybe they're hoping that these are guys that will revive their careers a little bit in Philadelphia. Like, maybe that's what Daryl Morey's hoping for, is that they'll revive their careers a little bit and they can trade them for guys that are maybe a little younger, you know, guys that are just younger and established. I'm wondering if that's something that Daryl Morey is maybe trying to do. I don't think they win a championship this year. But the thing is also, like, in the long term as well, Boston's locked in and so is New York. And as long as those two teams are locked into the guys that they're locked into with Jalen Brunson and, you know, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and Julius Randle, and they brought back Precious Achiuwa. They have DiVincenzo. Like, the Knicks are a deep team. They're a physical team. They play defense. The Knicks are a hard team to beat. Like, if Philadelphia has to play the Knicks for whatever reason, I don't think they win. Same thing with Boston. I don't think they win. And, you know, as a Pacers fan, it sucks that that's reality, because I'm a Pacers fan. I'm like, you know, even like, I'm just going to say this. Even though Philadelphia has Paul George, the better team, like, if the Sixers had to play the Pacers in a 7-game series, or Milwaukee in a 7-game series, or even Miami in a 7-game series, I think Philadelphia loses. Yes, Embiid's very good, and like, the thing about all these teams and the thing about the NBA as a whole is you can let one guy beat you. You know what I'm saying? Like, these teams and most teams, I think, realize this is like, yeah, when you play against the Bucks, Giannis is going to score 40. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Pacers did this last year where it was like they beat the Bucks 4 times in the regular season with Giannis averaging, 42 points per game. So, like, even the Pacers have learned that it's like, yeah, when you play against better teams, their best guy is probably going to beat you. But as long as their whole team doesn't beat you, you'll be fine. And that's what I think is going to happen with the 76ers. Like, yes, Tyrese Maxey is very good. Paul George is very good. But, I mean, the thing is, Embiid is like a given. You know what I'm saying? Embiid's going to get his. It's, can you stop the other two guys? If you can stop Maxey and you can stop Paul George, okay, and just, you know, get good one-on-one defense with them, you can beat them. You know, and I think even with the Pacers beating the Bucks in the playoffs last year, like the Pacers have experience playing better teams. In fact, the Pacers tend to play better when they play against good teams, and they play like shit against bad teams. I don't understand that characteristic of the team, but I just feel like when Philadelphia, once they get into the dog days of the playoffs, like, yeah, in the regular season, teams are going to let you do what they want. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it is. You know, once you get into the regular season, teams usually let you do what you want. And then once you get to the playoffs, all of a sudden we see teams start pulling out zone defense and trapping defenses. And I even saw like 1-3-1 zones at one point. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's like teams change up the way that they play. And I feel like if you're Philly, you know, and you only have 3 guys on your roster that are like really established, like, yeah, that might get you out of the first round. But once you get into the second round, suddenly you're not playing teams that are just, you know, 1 or 2 guys deep, or you know, maybe 3 or 4 guys deep. You're playing against teams that are 8 guys deep. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing is also, eventually, Paul George has to sit. Eventually, Joel Embiid has to sit. Eventually, Tyrese Maxey has to sit. You know what I'm saying? That's what the issue that the Knicks ran into in the playoffs. Like, they just had so many guys playing so many minutes, and you know, they ended up paying the price for it in injuries and stuff like that, right? But the thing is, I think if you're the 76ers, you have to find a way to get some more established guys on your roster before the trade deadline. And preferably as soon as possible. I have a feeling this is a team that, like, come the trade deadline, like a week or 2 before the trade deadline, is really going to try to make a move. You know, yeah, Kelly Oubre is great. Caleb Martin's great. Andre Drummond is good in the regular season, but he's not a guy that is going to help you very much in the playoffs when teams are, you know, playing small ball and doing, you know, 5-out offense, so to speak. So I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Philadelphia. There's also going to be a learning curve in there as well. Usually when you add another star like this to your roster, there's a learning curve. I mean, even the Milwaukee Bucks, they traded for Damian Lillard, and they didn't figure that shit out really at all. Hopefully this year is better for them, and I think it will be. I think, you know, having more time spent together between Dame and Chris Middleton and Giannis is going, I think they're going to be a better team than people think. But the thing is, there's always, like, even, like, I say this all the time, like, when, the Cavs, right? When LeBron came back to the Cavaliers and they traded for Kevin Love, there was a learning curve. There was a learning curve for, you know, Kyrie, LeBron, and Kevin Love to, like, learn how to play together. You know, it's something that doesn't just come together. It's something that takes time. You know, you don't really learn what each guy, you know, where's their spot on the floor? Where are they supposed to be? How do we coexist? You know, and I think that's something that is going to have to be established with the 76ers. Like, you got 3 mouths to feed. Somebody's going to have to take the back seat, and I don't think it's going to be Paul George, and I don't think it's going to be Joel Embiid. I think Tyrese Maxey is going to take a step back in scoring, but he will increase his numbers in assists. I think he's going to dish more assists this year, which is a good thing. You know, for all I know, Philadelphia's starting 5 could have Eric Gordon in it. You know, they do need a shooter, or another shooter out there in that starting 5, but they're going to be a very interesting team to watch, and you know, I'm just very curious to see how this team, or like what roster moves they make going forward, because the roster as it's constructed right now, I don't think is a championship roster. They remind me of the Phoenix Suns in a team that's like, yeah, you'll be a playoff team, a perennial playoff team. You got a lot of really good players. You know what I'm saying? You got your three guys. But what are you putting around them? And I'm going to be honest, that's the thing I was a little shocked about with the 76ers and why they signed Paul George to so much money. It's because now they're kind of in the same situation that the Phoenix Suns are in. But the thing is, the Phoenix Suns, at least, like the difference between them and the Phoenix, actually, there's not even really a difference because I don't think Paul George is worth the money he's getting paid anyway. Yeah, Paul George is good, but I don't think he's worth $50 million a year good. You know what I'm saying? But, the Phoenix Suns have Bradley Beal. So it's just like, there's going to be an adaptation period, and I think maybe as the years go on, the salary cap will get higher and they can maybe bring in some better players. I don't know how much it's going up, but I don't think this may be a hot take, but I don't think the Philadelphia 76ers, even after adding Paul George, are a team that's going to win a championship in the next 4 or 5 years because of what has happened with the Boston Celtics and with the New York Knicks. The Celtics re-signed everybody. Same thing with the Knicks. The Knicks brought in everybody that they could. The only person they lost was Isaiah Hartenstein. And even though Hartenstein is a big loss, they still have Mitchell Robinson. They brought back Precious Achiuwa. They still have, they still have their bench depth in they still have Deuce McBride. They still have Dante DiVincenzo. They still have their core guys also. They added Mikal Bridges. They have two of the best 3-and-D wings in the game on their roster now, and OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Jalen Brunson took less money, so they could, have some flexibility. So it's just the Knicks are a team that I'm just like, they're very deep. They're very good. They're very physical. Same thing with Boston. Boston's very good, very physical. They have a really, really good roster. So even though that the 76ers added Paul George, yes, it makes them more competitive. It makes them a perennial playoff team, even though they pretty much already were a perennial playoff team before the Paul George signing. But now they're a perennial playoff team that is strapped for cash, and I think they're still a second-round exit team at this point. Sometimes I see signings, and I'm like, yes, they're good signings. And I look at it, I'm like, okay, it's impressive that the 76ers added Paul George, right? They did put somewhat of a decent squad around them, enough to get them to 50 wins. I think they'll definitely be like a 50-win team. If they're not, I'd be a little surprised, but it's not really outside of the realm of possibility that they're not a 50-win team. I know it sounds kind of crazy to say, but like I said, there's an adaptation period there. But this is a team that I feel like once they get into the playoffs, they're not a team you're going to see in the Eastern Conference Finals. I just don't think so, unless they make some serious trades that improves the roster drastically, or unless KJ Martin and, like I said, some of these young guys like Ricky Council and all them become really, really good, which is always a possibility as well. But it's just the idea the 76ers really need a lot to go well for them, or a lot to go right for them, in order for them to really be in that conversation of a championship contender. Because right now, yes, they have 3 really good players, but they're in the same situation as the Phoenix Suns. They're in the same exact situation. You got a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of expensive mouths to feed, and I guess the saying is they have a lot of Chiefs and no Indians, and that alone is a problem in the NBA and in the sports world as a whole. At least for leagues that have salary caps. So I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see. Tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. Helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report, and I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.